Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Sideline with Plug Talk Sports. I'm Brandon Hernandez, your host, talking everything Dolphins going on for this upcoming season. My apologies. This current season, it feels upcoming because we didn't see a single win for the Miami Dolphins. Very sluggish overall from the team throughout the first 3 weeks. Couldn't get anything defensively at all against the Colts. Couldn't do anything at all against New England in the last stretch, the last drive, potential clutch moment for Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins offense. Couldn't do much finishing the job against the Buffalo Bills in week 3 on the road for Thursday Night Football. But Monday Night Football yesterday, the Dolphins finally got it done. Welcome, everybody, to the Sideline. Again, I am Brandon Hernandez, your host for tonight's episode. We usually have Danny and Jonathan, the other guys here, but let's jump right into it, though. The Miami Dolphins gained their first victory of the 2025 NFL season, winning it 27-21 over the New York Jets. And the Jets, who had Justin Fields under center, they still have yet to figure out their offense as they were sluggish throughout the entire game. Actually, it really was till the last few seconds of the first half. That's when they were able to get a field goal to get points on the board. But for the Miami Dolphins, flip that around. Riley Patterson, who ended up becoming signed onto the team prior of that Monday night game, he ends up getting himself a field goal to open up the scoring. And then later on, we see a name we haven't heard at all on the field from training camp through practices, through regular season. Darren Waller, for his first ever debut as a Miami Dolphin, caught 2 touchdowns. Tight end caught 2 touchdowns. That's something we haven't said since Jonnu Smith. And for those who are kind of unfamiliar with the Miami Dolphins tight end room, because we haven't really heard a lot of names from the tight end room, I am proud to announce that these guys from Julian Hill and Waller, of course, have got themselves involved. But speaking of Waller, though, he's part of 13 snaps throughout the game, 3 receptions, 27 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of them was on a 4th and goal. Tua Tagovailoa passing the ball at the back of the end zone. That was the first touchdown of the game. And Tua said in media availability post-game that was probably the first time he's ever had to throw a ball like that in his NFL career. So Waller making a first time for everyone. And then, of course, going to the second half, he later on will get himself a touchdown. And we stretch over to Devon Achane, drilling some guys later on. He ends up having a pretty big day as well, 99 yards rushing with 1 touchdown as well. Dolphins lead at 27-13. Jets in the last remaining ticking minutes, slowly pushing on. Got a touchdown, 2-point conversions, good. And even prior of that, Justin Fields had a rushing touchdown on a 4th and 1 that went for, I don't know what, like 40-something, 30-something yards. So it slowly felt like a regular Monday Night Football Miami Dolphins game, where you're up big, but then something random happens, like a Will Levis type of, legacy game, which thank God we don't have Will Levis anymore in the NFL, at least starting in the NFL, that is. But the Miami Dolphins themselves, they look regenerated, renewed. Unfortunately, though, there's some pros and cons to this game. The obvious is our first topic of the night, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, who basically was the top receiver throughout the entire game, having over 50 yards receiving, his night ended short, getting a first down for 12 yards. He goes out of bounds on the right sideline. A jet DB on his leg, and he's basically doing the splits at this point. Like his leg's right here, right leg, left leg with a guy on him. The guy twists that left leg. His right leg does not move, stuck in the dirt, goes like that. Dislocated knee, multiple ligaments torn, ACL torn. This has been an injury that a lot of people have seen from other athletes, season-ending, and it did become season-ending. Confirmed earlier this morning, season-ending injury for Tyreek Hill. The idea that Tyreek tells his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, the idea to get back in 2026 season. So nothing at all in 2025 will be expected of him. But at the same time, we are going to be seeing more Tyreek Hill potentially, who will be 32 years old in March of next year. So that is at least a good sign that is the idea, that is the plan. But again, could be season ending. Really could be season ending. So I don't want to, because I hate saying that word multiple times, season ending, because if it is, do they move on from Tyreek? How does that look like? From his injury, at least, he's not going to be getting a lot of guaranteed money until he's going to be officially on the roster for 2026, but that's a way in the future. this is going to be more of a timeline thing, what the Dolphins do moving on. Which actually, funny enough, 24 hours within his injury, they already actually got himself Cedric Wilson, who was a former Dolphin, was on the practice squad for the New Orleans Saints, another winless team in the NFL. So they end up adding on a receiver on top of that. But I think the best part about this injury was more or less the vibe that came with it, right? It didn't feel like, especially from the sideline of the Dolphins, that, oh, the season's over. The offense is gone. It really didn't feel like that. Tyreek Hill, probably the happiest man to be with his leg bent sideways. I mean, smiling the entire time on the cart leaving. His mom and dad basically just walking into the tunnel and even smiling in the ambulance. There was a picture out there on Twitter. I'm not too positive who exactly is from, so I apologize if I'm not being able to credit you. But there was a picture on Twitter where it was literally Tyreek in the ambulance smiling on the phone, talking to somebody on the phone. It's like, hey, I'm nearly there. I'm nearly Joe DiMaggio's. Like, you know how insane that is? To have that type of mindset, which is good because big part of this, I wanted to say, the mental focus of where do you go, not only as an athlete, but also as a person. I mean, this is going to be a long rehab process. Again, as we said before, Tyreek Hill gone for the entire 2025 NFL season for the Miami Dolphins. And speaking of wide receivers, Jalen Waddle has some words as well about his injury. Mixed emotions having one of our captains, leaders, and a player that means so much to the team, what he means to the game of football, just his legacy, everything he did in his career. So even in some of the words of some of the guys in the locker room, they're talking about, it is not looking too good. Maybe they really don't have him for the Dolphins organization next year, let alone in the NFL. So they already talked about that piece there. And then on top of that, Tua, big Christ follower, as we know, one of the main leaders in that offense, the C captain for a reason for the Miami Dolphins. He's basically, pray to God for him, looking after Tyreek Hill. That is another piece to it. So it's all smiles from Tyreek leaving the stadium, all smiles from the Miami Dolphins, finally getting a win, being 1-3 for the year. And funny enough, again, week 4, but a game away from the wild card spot. I mean, again, week 4, but that kind of just tells you exactly what's going on in the AFC. The Baltimore Ravens, who are also, 1-3, they are a little bit in the rut. Other teams are in a similar position, same thing with the Dolphins. So there's a slow pickup now for Miami. But, let's go into more of the game, though, because we talked about going into this one, 0-3 teams, Monday Night Football, and Jets, Dolphins, the rivalry edition jerseys, sleek as hell. And let me tell you, I was at the game in person. I don't know how I was able to do it. Able to go sideline, right behind, the ESPN reporters, all the guys doing their work. And I'm just looking at these jerseys. And the up-close feel, it's much better up close. Some of the images, like when they had the whole thing of Tua Tagovailoa ponytail with the jersey, and it's like the orange, and it's like I'm feeling the helmet. I don't know about the helmet. This is an all black jersey, and I have to tell you as well, the orange pops more than the blue. That's what was my main concern, though, because I didn't want this to be like no highlight thing. Like, I don't know if you remember the color rushes back in the day with Jarvis Landry or Alonzo, where like it was to be straight this like creamsicle looking thing, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, opening year. It was some disgusting stuff from the Dolphins. This has been the best alternate jersey I would say from the Miami Dolphins have had in this century, I would say. Now, not like a Brandon Marshall's orange Miami Dolphins jersey, not like obviously the retro 72, like the 1972 retro jersey and the aqua ones, I mean, of course, are the best Dolphin jerseys of all time. Best logo of all time as well on that helmet. They didn't have that helmet. It was more, of course, that, that Stephen Ross type of thing where like, the Dolphins swimming around. I'm not a fan of the logo of that Dolphin one, obviously this main one. And shout out to the guy who on Twitter is talking about bring the throwbacks permanent. The throwbacks need to be permanent. But at least in that night's case for Monday Night Football, the rivalry edition jerseys look great. And they did great. Again, 1-0. Jumping into the game here, though, I thought I liked a lot of what Mike McDaniel did in the past 2-3 years until I saw what happened without Tua in the huddle. I mean, a lot of bubble screen, Devon, Achane, you got guys going out behind the line of scrimmage. It's like, can we move the ball forward? In this game, they did move the ball forward. They did move the ball forward. Again, 27-21, the Miami Dolphins over the New York Jets. And Tua Tagovailoa, his first game without an interception, I think, this season, because I know he threw a pick. I actually can't confirm. I mean, how can you not forget a Tua Tagovailoa pick? As iconic as it is, missed out on that one. 177 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 17.25 completion attempt ratio. And on top of that, Tyreek Hill, who had 6'7 yards, 6'7, 6 receptions. He leads the team in yards receiving as well as receptions. But the overall offense was so inclusive, though. I mean, the king of the RPO, Tua Tagovailoa. There was one play where he fakes off a pass, RPO, guy swings behind him, whoop, little flick on the right. I know there's like a rumor. I don't know if it's a rumor or if it's a reality that Tua Tagovailoa is right-handed. He just throws the ball with his left hand. I'm not too positive how true that is. But if it is, I mean, that's probably the reason why he makes all these trick plays. Behind the back, Malik Washington, right behind him, first down, near the 6 yards of the end zone. Is that confidence in the offense? I feel like was missing a lot last season, especially when Tua went gone in week 3 of last year against the Buffalo Bills. This team is starting gradually, unfortunately, during the regular season instead of the preseason, which I talked about, especially for our main Plug Talk Sports podcast, which is always on Mondays at 10 p.m. I always talk about if you have these guys in the preseason, slowly figure it out. It's better to do that than slowly, gradually figure it out during the regular season. That's what I kind of felt about this Miami Dolphins current team for this season. Didn't know what the hell was going on. Got guys that signed on to the team in less than a month, get blown out by the Colts, and you slowly see, hey, they got themselves, you're understanding a little bit against New England. Okay, you're competing against Buffalo. And then this game, Tua, as I said before, finding the guys in the right motions, good passes. There was a few balls missed to Jalen Waddle, and Waddle, 48 yards, average 16 reception yards per catch. And we're talking about 3 receptions throughout the night for Jalen Waddle with 48 yards. He was finding guys open. There was one that was a cross 20-plus yard pass, hit him right when he needed to on the sideline. Waddle able to get it right there in the breadbasket. And also, of course, there was one where Waddle was fading out. Those are the type of passes for Miami Dolphin fans out there they're looking for. They need from him. Tua delivered. So that was a big Tua game right there. And also on top of that, Tua, 6 rushing yards. But a few of those yards, though, were very, very important because one of them was actually between 2 Jet defenders that are sliding right with him as he slid, hit him right in the head. He got right back up. And actually, this is going to, please a lot of people out there. Tua Tagovailoa on trusting his body, getting hit. There's a lot of factors that went into what happened last year, what happened in years prior that we fixed, turn around. That's him talking about trusting his body. I know that in 2023, he came to that season, doing a little like jiu-jitsu. So that's why a lot of times when you saw him get sacked or just hit a little bit, the guy's rolling. He's rolling around, This case around, Tua's a little more smarter with his body. He's not going head first, and he's not really, challenging anything. So I like how the offense looked in this game. My biggest issue, though, I would have to say, is finishing things out. Guys got involved, right, across the board here. Devon Achane, only 2 reception yards. Now, again, rush 99 off 20 carries. And another thing, too, about this offense, 31 run attempts. And this is between, of course, Achane, Ollie Gordon, Malik Washington, and Tua Tagovailoa in this case. And 25 attempts throwing the ball. So they ran more than they passed. So I like that balance. It's not too crazy. But I want to see, Nick Westbrook. Westbrook, I feel like we got this guy, and I feel like he's going to be a very underrated, like what Cedric Wilson was back in the day. Something where it's like a Kenny Stills, you don't really pay attention to him, but he's going to make you lose focus a little bit on the main guys. I haven't seen that much. 1 reception throughout this game, 1 target throughout this game. Malik Washington, who, of course, I feel like has been, between special teams and everything in the middle of that, it's hard to really blame him for not getting receptions or let alone being on the field on some points because Malik, they have him going back and forth. And a lot of times, as we talked before, rushing yards. He has more rushing yards than receiving yards. Oh, my apologies. Flip that script. He has more receiving yards at 13 receiving yards and 8 rushing yards. But the offensive capabilities, he's everywhere. So I'm really not too worried about that. But Devon Achane, 2 receiving yards. That's a little concerning. It's not a typical Dolphins game. And I know that, oh, well, Hill got involved. Waddle got involved. I like how this team looks passing the ball to Darren Waller, which, of course, we'll jump really into as we open up this podcast, talking about him getting 2 touchdowns. Devon Achane not being involved much besides running the ball as a running back, which there's no issue in that. But are we seeing some Mike McDaniel leaving away from his former schemes of Devon Achane catches the ball behind the line of scrimmage, blocking downfield? Are we leaving that now in the Mike McDaniel era? Only time will tell. But I thought that was a little concerning, a little more eye-opening on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, love the defense in this game. This was the best defense the Miami Dolphins have had all year. Again, week 4. But mind you, Jordan Brooks, who is one of the linebackers who was leading the NFL in tackles, led the team in this game. 18 total tackles, 15 of them solo. And if you look down the line as well, Sealer finally showing a little bit more love. 5 total tackles, 4 of them solo, 2 of them for loss as well. And Jack Jones, I got to tell you, there was a moment in the game, the Jets' first drive on offense. They go down the field. Justin Field looks great. Bryce Hall, he's right there in the end zone. Jack Jones, the guy from the Raiders, former Green Bay Packer, a lot of people have said, oh, this is a great addition. He hasn't really shown much throughout the first 3 weeks of the season. In this case, Hall's right there for a tutty. Boo! Punches it right out. That's what we've been waiting for. That's what we've been waiting for the Miami Dolphins. They finally got themselves a recovering turnover. They finally got themselves funny enough, multiple fumbles in this game. No interceptions for Justin Fields. Justin Fields, who ended up finishing off this game 226 yards. Only 7 of his passes incomplete. A little bit of a concern. But I like the pressure, though. I love the pressure, though, of this defense. It's the intensity Anthony Weaver talked about going into this game. It's the idea that they got to be violent. The answers are in the violence. It's violent answers that this Dolphins defense needs, and that's exactly what we saw in this game. I give all credit to Jordan Brooks. I give all credit to Jalen Phillips, who recovered a fumble earlier in this game. And I understand we haven't really seen the draft picks work. Where's Kenneth Grant? Why is our 13th overall pick, not second round, third round, overall first round, 13th round pick? Why is Kenneth Grant not on the field as much? 1 tackle in that game. And that could be followed as well for the other guys. Jordan Phillips, 1 tackle in that game. Rookie out of Maryland. The pass rush rookies, I know a lot of people talk about it. Don't expect much. At least not early in the year. Don't expect much. If you're trying to tell me he has to share between Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Zach Sealer, Judon, and then, they also have Fitzpatrick coming in on some blitzes. They also got themselves Brooks and Dotson coming on some blitzes. You're not going to find a lot of room for a rookie like that to be active. And I understand the idea of, well, why did we draft him in the first round? We want a guy that, we could have got Will Johnson, or we could have got, take your time on the rookie. It's just the defense right now, it's too stacked. It should have been a 9-2 defense. Actually, funny enough, I think during that Jets game, we saw Phillips guard, on man-to-man guarding a guy. Hopefully not Wilson. Hopefully not Wilson throughout that game. Either way, getting off topic here. So besides the pass rush, the DBs in this case, Rasul Douglas, this probably is the best Rasul Douglas game in this one. And, on tape tells you a little more different than stat-wise. Stat-wise, 3 tackles throughout this one and 1 sack. So it's not too bad, but 2 passes batted away. He was stick like glue on guys' hip on man coverage. I liked what I saw from him. There was even one on a third down where kind of like everyone thought he intercepted the ball or someone intercepted the ball going to his zone. That's the type of defense they need zone-wise, though. I think Anthony Weaver is trying to push for that, especially with Jason Marshall Jr., who right now is on IR, the rookie out of Florida. he was really the only nickel on this team. And now with him out, you see Douglas kind of pushing himself. I would have to say, again, I'm only assuming because I don't know the game plan. I don't know what Anthony Weaver's cooking up every single week. But going from prior to the Dolphins, when with the Baltimore Ravens, he was known for getting guys out of positions into new locations on D. And hey, try this out. Excel in that. And Weaver excelled on guys doing that. So I think Douglas might be one of those guys that can push for nickel. Mika Fitzpatrick, this game, I mean, I'm still waiting on a really big Fitzpatrick game. He played well. I'm still waiting on that. But credit to the defense when credit is due. I think for the Miami Dolphins throughout this game, it was much needed. Obviously, not only a win, but on national television. People said that the Dolphins were going to be the bottom feeder of the AFC East. People were saying we're the bottom feeder of the NFL and the AFC. This team in the past 2 to 3 weeks has shown, not only just me, but I'm pretty sure other Dolphin fans out there, I'm pretty sure people who watch NFL games like, religion, this is not a Dolphin team that should have been 0-3. This is not a Dolphin team that is going to be, tanking at all this year. I think as long as Tua Tagovailoa is the quarterback on this team, I think as long as you have Mike McDaniel as the head coach and you have a flair of something, this team is not going to be able to tank. I mean, this is not the New Orleans Saints. And speaking of the Miami Dolphins' future schedule, it is nice. It is nice for the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, on a short week after their victory against the New York Jets, they're going to be going over to Carolina, go against the Panthers, then come back home and face against the Chargers. The Chargers team, they lost to Jackson Dart in his NFL debut in New York. So who knows exactly? I mean, maybe just a fluke. Maybe just, okay, well, the Giants had to get themselves a marquee game of the year. And that was probably Jackson Dart's the marquee game for the year. Similar to what Daniel Jones, we saw Daniel Jones winning against Tampa Bay in his rookie year, had a rush in for an end zone touchdown. It didn't, relate to the rest of his career in New York. So maybe that's the same thing with Jackson Dart. But I'm getting off topic here. Again, Panthers, Chargers, and you go to Cleveland, you can face off the Browns. You face off against the Falcons on the road, and then Thursday Night Football against the Ravens. You may be going in the next 4 weeks for the Miami Dolphins. You're either 2-2 the next 4 weeks, or you're either 3-1 throughout the next 4 weeks. I don't think they'll go win 4 straight after this Monday Night Football game, because I think, Atlanta might be something. And a majority of these games, again, on the road. You're going to be on the road in Cleveland, on the road in Atlanta. So, and again, on the road as well for Carolina later on Sunday at 1 p.m. on Fox. But still, I like the Dolphins winning these games. I think the Dolphins do win against the Panthers in this one upcoming next week, especially when Dalen Waller is looking how he did. I mean, again, we mentioned before 27 receiving yards, 2 tutties. His first 2 touchdown games since 2020. Man, I was blasting his music going to work all morning just because of that. And I would also have to say a quick apology to Watt. I didn't expect him to be that good because I was so heartbroken on the Jonnu Smith stuff. For those who don't know, Jonnu wanted to get paid. They weren't willing to do more than, whatever amount he wanted. I think he wanted like 12 annually, 10 above that, maybe annually, millions annually. They didn't want to do that. I don't think the Dolphins are in a position where they can pay high guys when they do extensions where Tua gets extended, through 2026. They had extended Mostert, then got rid of him. Jalen Ramsey, the same thing. So that makes sense. But still, I was such a big Jonnu guy because when you have a good receiving tight end, especially in today's NFL, it is a game changer. George Kittle, Brock Purdy, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, likely Andrews, Lamar Jackson. Whatever comparison you want to make out there, it really does push an offense to be more, cooperative, whether that be the run game, whether that be RPO, and especially in RPO when you have a tight end that can receive, because Julian Hill can't, again, strongest tight end in the room, but he can't be a receiving tight end in today's NFL. I think that's like a big blocking guy. And funny enough, receiving wise, Julian Hill, 1 reception for 19 yards. So that's probably the best catch he's ever had all year, probably the only catch he's had all year. Because going into the Buffalo week, the tight ends throughout the entire first quarter for Buffalo had as much catches. Well, my apologies. The touchdowns for the tight ends in the Buffalo week were more than the receptions of the Miami Dolphins in that specific up to that week. So that's the type of story of this Dolphins tight end room. This is an explosive one here. Again, Waller 3, Julian Hill 1, 4 receptions, the most receptions for the tight end room for the Miami Dolphins all year through week 4, and Darren Waller with 2 touchdowns. Love the fact he's on the team. So, again, I apologize, Waller. I know you might not see this. If you do see this, or if anyone who is a big Waller fan is out there, you were right. The haters are right. Waller's the real deal again. He is real. So, coming out of retirement, 2 tutties. And this is, again, going to be a quick podcast. This is a Miami Dolphins only type of podcast thing. This is going to be airing mostly on Tuesdays, the day after Monday Night Football, so that we get all the stats, things ready to go for Dolphins. This is going to be interesting upcoming. As I told you about earlier on about the upcoming schedule for the Miami Dolphins, their game coming up against the Panthers. And the Panthers in week 4, they were struggling. When I mean struggling, I mean not close. Not close. 42-13. They lost to New England on the road in Foxborough. And again, the Patriots 2-2 right now in the division, leading basically in second right behind the Buffalo Bills, who are undefeated so far. And also for those who are on Champagne watch for the 1972 Miami Dolphins undefeated season, 17-0. The Bills, do they push the envelope? I mean, their schedule's pretty easy. I don't think they go undefeated. I think there would be champagne popping soon in heaven with Don Shula. But you never know. You never know. Don't want to say anything. Don't want to jinx anything. But, going back to the business, the Panthers, very much big struggle against New England. And then when the Dolphins faced New England, they controlled a lot of the game in the third quarter. Then things kind of slipped away penalty-wise. Then you go on and you have that chance at the end of the game. Didn't show up to be. So this will be a matchup that I see if you're the Miami Dolphins defense and you have a standout game like you did against New York. And yes, 27-21, I get it. But the control of the game, it was all Dolphins. The main part about the defense, giving the offense in the right places for scoring positions, in the right places where you have turnovers on special teams for the New York Jets, and it's all based on your defense pounding and punching that ball out. That needs to continue. This violent nature, shout out to the movie, this violent nature that Anthony Weaver is basically instilled in his defense midway early in this year, the quarter year, this needs to continue. If you look at it right now for the Miami Dolphins, stat-wise, they don't have the best defense, obviously. They're going against a lot of teams who have pretty good defensive. I think, the Atlanta Falcons have a top 10 defense right now currently in the NFL. The Chargers in the same position. This is a moment where you can, have a standout game for the defense, kind of boost your numbers in that point. But the Miami Dolphins, 1.5-point spread favorites. And the over in this game, over-under, that is 44.5 total. Why? 1.5? That should change. And probably will change in later on weeks. But with Tyreek Hill now gone, and now we have, Cedric Wilson coming on for the practice squad for the New Orleans Saints. That's been confirmed earlier today, 5 hours ago by Adam Schefter. Maybe the Dolphins find themselves back, but still plenty of offensive pieces and plenty of time for the Miami Dolphins. That's going to do all this for Sideline here on Plug Talk Sports and Plug Talk Sports Network. Again, episodes every Tuesday, and this will be at random times maybe. Again, at night, of course, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Miami Dolphins talk going to be going on Tuesdays every night. Basically half an hour podcast for those who are new to the channel. I want to thank you for all the viewers that showed up here for the second episode of this. And if you're interested in more action like this, and let alone NFL, NBA, NHL, hockey season's coming up too. We got a hockey podcast that'll be coming up later on this week. And of course, the main Plug Talk Sports podcast, 10 p.m. on Mondays. Look out for that. With that being said, I appreciate you guys' time. I'll see you guys in the next one. Go Dolphins. And again, Dolphins, Panthers, 1 p.m. See you then.